Okay, hi again here. This time I'm going to talk about some puri things. So, I really only run around with one puri spec. As you can see here, I have it labeled puri on my rolls. I'm going to switch to that. Now, there's a few different things that people do a little bit differently than me. But I'll try and mention them if I remember them. I know guild member for the level 64 mastery, I believe they use Faith's Reward instead of Diversify. And different things with this is Diversify increases number of Purifier sign buffs you can have active at one time. So instead of just using Sign of Faith all the time, you can have a second sign as well, which I normally use Sign of Daring and Sign of Faith. I'll talk more about that. The difference is that with Face Reward is other instanced or channeled damaging or healing abilities add a stacking buff to you, reducing cast time your next non-instant ability by zero point 0.5 seconds per stack, up to a max of 5 stacks. This pretty much allows you at 5 stacks to cast a 2.5 second cast time ability as instant, or at 4 stacks a 2 second one. And obviously you can do the math for different stacks. Um, what some people use this for, the difference is in Purifier, I've never used one healing ability. Um, Ward of Scorching. It's a 2 second cast time, and at the moment, as you can see, it heals for about 25k currently with my gear and absorbs up to 12k, just over 12k damage. The absorb shield lasts for 10 seconds. This is a 2 second cast time ability, and it is not worth it compared to your other abilities. Now, if it's an instant cast, that is obviously different. So some people um, use that different talent in 64 Mastery to be able to use Ward of Scorching. Depending on the fight, that could be good, so you might want to take Ward of Scorching and put it on your bar. I'm going to do that for now anyways, because when you're not in combat, you can easily switch your talents and save them. So that could be something that you're more interested in with certain fights, or always. With me, I've used to how I've been healing, so I've never thought of Ward of Scorching to even use that Faith Reward cast time reduction. So the spec I have here is 11 Sentinel, 61 Puri, and 4 Inquisitor. 4 Inquisitor is just 4 points in planar study increase in our spell power. Spell power is the thing that makes our heals more solid. We heal for stronger amounts with more spell power we have, and it increases our base. Obviously, with crits, our crits are a lot more powerful too, because of the increased spell power we have. As well, we have 61 purifiers, so I fill up everything. Reason for this is Flame of Life. Flame of Life shares a debuff where you can't receive it. Um, Forget if it's 1 minute and a half, 1.5 or 2 minutes. So I'll just use it here. Hover over it. 1 minute and every 1 minute and 30 seconds. So you get this debuff called Flood of Light, which you can't benefit it from Life's Rapture or Flame of Life. Life Rapture is a warrior paladin tanking ability, which does the same thing as Flame of Life. It tends to be a little bit stronger because of the tank's health pool instead of the purifier's health pool. For 20-man raids, one purifier, one um, paladin. Sorry, I drew a blank on what was called there. Tanking spec. Paladin um, could end up putting that debuff on all 20 raid members. Of course, it's proximity to it as well. They have to be in range of the caster to receive that. But with a 20-man is all should end up having that debuff. That is very useful for high burst raid damage in 20-mans. Used it on Volin, actually, with in Storm Legion. Anyways, so 61 Purifier. This makes all our Purifier abilities stronger, of course. Um, if you look over the things, Purifier, each point in Purifier increases healing done by 1% and absorption by 1%. Inquisitor is just damage done, so really our damage is mediocre anyways, but because of that spell power increase, it's very useful. Not to mention, it does give us a buff called Armor of Devotion, increasing our critical hit. Well, that's just damaging abilities, sadly, by 5%. You could try switching around and seeing what you might like better. Oracle as well increases spell power by 2% per point in the first tree, so 4 points in there would be 8%. So that could be very useful. Well, it's the same as the Inquisitor, but Oracle could give us... Doesn't help with raids because Bard will give us, but... And I believe we have that type of buff anyways with Purifier, or Sentinel, Boon of Vitality. So, really not gaining anything, it's more just the spell power increase. If you hover over Oracle, though, it does increase healing done by 0.5 and absorption granted by 0.5. So, since we're not really gaining anything with either one, Oracle probably would be a better spec to put the 4 points in. As well, we have 11 points in Sentinel, 5 in Watchful Gaze, increasing our spell power by 10%. I have 2 points in Benediction, increasing healing done and absorption granted by 3%. Then have 3 points in Expeditious. Sorry if I pronounce things wrong, because I know some people get upset by that. Anyways, this increases healing and absorption granted with instant spells by 6%. We do have a few instant spells, especially our absorb shields are instant, so that is really helpful at times. Then as well, our last point is in Touch the Light, making the next healing absorb spell to be instant cast and reducing its mana cost by 50%. It has a 45-second cooldown, it lasts for 30 seconds, but obviously when your healing is, you're pretty much going to be casting something in the next second to use that up. And then, as well, like always, I recommend you look at the root abilities, you watch and look at the talents, see how things affect other things, so that way you get a more of a feel for the spec. As well, for my rating spec, I have Righteous Protection, 61 Mastery, Divine Inspiration, 62, Faith Freedom is 63, 64. I said I used Diversify for the 2 Purifier sign buffs you can use then, but I know other people that use the Faith Reward, so that way the Ward of Scorching can be used with an instant cast. As well, because you have such strong heals at times, if you're finding that with some fights your heals are a little bit lacking or something, you can use Soul Stream, which you can channel on your tank to heal them up for 50% of your max health each second for 3 seconds. So it pretty much heals them within 3 seconds for 150% of your max HP. The other one, which is very useful in raids and also in especially 5-mans, is Divine Favor. Divine Favor is a buff that you apply to yourself first, and then it switches over to the secondary effect, which is a buff you apply up to 3 party members. So, as you can see on my buff bar here, with what mastery you pick, depends on how you buff. As I said with that level 64 one, if you go with the 2 signs, you will use pretty much Sign of Faith and Sign of Daring. If you do not use that mastery, you can only use 1. Any other sign buff that you use, like Sign of Anticipation, will get rid of the first sign buff you applied. So now I just have Sign of Daring and the Sign of Anticipation. So I'll rebuff those two first. Caregiver's Blessing is a buff. I'll go over this more. And Divine Providence. As you saw, as soon as I clicked Divine Providence, it went on me. You see the little icon. Where the buff is, it's now a different icon. That's the secondary buff, which you would apply up to 3 people. We have Heroic Resolve, which is an endurance buff. Wisdom of the Ages, wisdom buff. Pretty much in raids is those 2 buffs are given by Archons or Bards, so they do not stack. We then also have a buff that you put on pretty much your tank, the tank that you'll be healing the most, because what it does is when you heal that target with your eruption on it, whatever they have targeted, you deal some damage to them. Go over this as I read the things. So as I always suggest is you kind of pull everything out of your ability bars, you kind of see what they are, and then make macros from them, or you can use my macros. But I even do highly suggest you kind of have a feel for what you have in your toolbox, of course. So with this Inquisitor, we have a buff, Armor of Devotion, which I realized only increases the critical hit chance of damaging abilities. So it's not that useful in this healing spec. So if you use a different off-soul than Inquisitor, you'll have something different here. It might be useful, it might not be. Our role is heals, not damage. So, and we do, because of Eruption, we do pretty decent damage compared to what damaging abilities could do for us. Bolt of Judgment, it's a 2-second cast, deals 8,841 life damage at max without a crit and with my gear. Pretty much Flame Lance, cast time 2 seconds from Purifier Tree, deals max 10,000, 1100, 101, jeez. You know what I'm saying here, 116 fire damage. So it does more than the Bolt of Judgment, and it's the same cast time. So it's more useful for us if we wanted to cast a damage spell to use this one over the Bolt of Judgment. Bolt of Depravity is a 3-second one, deals 13k for an extra second. It deals approximately 13,000. Deals approximately 3,000 more damage for 1 second cast time. So you're still better off using the Flame Lance as a cast time ability. This is another reason why I suggest being first in the gear, and then as well looking over stuff. Do not blindly trust people. Do not even blindly trust me. I'm trying to help you out as much as I can. There is things I forget about. There is things that I'm not that well versed in, so I might, miss some things. So I would suggest that you take the time yourself to delve into your spec, get to know it a little bit better than just cookie cutter, grab it and slam it into your own character and then try to go from there. Guides as well, very highly miss stuff. Some guides are written for, beginner players to just get a feel for a spec and doesn't go into the intricacies of that spec. So you miss out on things. Guildmate with learning Liberator. Liberator's a little bit like Warden. I was telling her a few different tips that I know from Warden that I know from guides that we don't suggest, and she mentioned that even the guide that she read and got the spec from didn't mention that sort of stuff, and there was things that she had in her abilities under her spec that weren't even on the bar because it wasn't even mentioned in the guide or wasn't even in the macros. So again, highly recommend you do this. Take the time to look through all the abilities, look over it, look over the talents and how they affect things. Heroic Resolve, Endurance buff, that's the same thing as the Bard buff, or as well the Oracle buff. So if you use a spec that has 4 points in Oracle, which I would suggest you use, it does increase your healing and you're absorbed by 2% more, so it does sound like it's a better spec at the moment. You have your combat buff, touch the light, which makes the next instant or next healing or absorption spell to be cast instantly. Just to trying to check. Your channeled abilities, do not use it. And your instant abilities do not use it up either. So it has to be your next cast time ability. So that is good that it doesn't use it up. Another thing is I wasn't too sure. I believed it worked that way, but it's been a while since I've tested it, and sometimes if you don't always read all the patch notes, you could miss some changes, or they sometimes ninja patch some stuff, and it might not work the way it used to work. So it's always a good idea to also just make sure how something works. Just because it worked one way like that doesn't mean that, a year down the road, they didn't change it to work a different way. Um, you have Healing Breath and Sentinel, very good instant heal, cooldown 8 seconds, really good for spot healing. Um, have Subtle Implication, which is a 2-second cast time, very weak heal because we aren't a Sentinel, we are Purifier. So our Sentinel heals are missing talents to make them better. There is a cast time damage ability, 2 seconds. Obviously, the Flame Lance, as I said, does more damage for a 2-second cast time. But there is an instant dot that does some life damage, so I do have that on my bar in case I do have some time to damage. One global cooldown, do a little dot, makes it worth it sometimes. Then we have the Purifier one. For our Purifier one, we have Soulbrand. This restores 7% mana for each click, but what it does is it also reduces your max health by 5% for 10 seconds up to a max of 20 or 5 stacks, meaning that you have 25% max health reduction. So I'm just going to show it right here that click it a couple times. As you can see on either of my health bars, the one right beside my character, it's lower, or the one up top where my thing is, you can see I'm at 75% health now. I have a K alert for this as well. It shows 5 seconds. The debuff has 5 seconds left now. Obviously, it does last for 10 seconds, so you really don't want to, depending on your health pool, and if you know you can survive some raid damage, you want to be very careful of when you re-get mana. A lot of fights, depending on how much healing you are doing, how much spot healing, how many shields you're throwing out, you can end up using a lot of mana. So with this spec, you have to be very mana management at times. Mana pots, of course, are very useful. I found that unless I die or I'm not paying attention to my mana is when I have mana issues, which then I'm glad to have a mana pot. But most times I'm good at managing my own mana, and I don't need to. My heals are pretty strong, and so I can afford the time to regain some mana with just spam clicking Soulbrand. As well, we have some damage stuff. We have Char, Flame Lance. Flame Lance is, of course, that cast one. But as well, like, Eruption is when an absorb is applied to an ally by the cleric while in combat, deals fire damage to the ally's target based on the cleric's spell power. Cannot target the cleric, can only affect one ally. So you normally put it on to tank your healing. Anytime you put an absorb shield on them, it procs. Now with Purifier, pretty much any of our heals adds a little bit of an absorb shield. So since it's based off our spell power, if you look at my stats here, my spell power is over 14,000 in my spec and with my current gear. That means that Eruption pretty much does 14,000 damage each global cooldown when I shield a person up. So that's a little bit better than casting a Flame Lance, which does just over 10,000 in a 2-second cast. I can pretty much get 28,000 damage by doing 2 shields instead of using 1 Flame Lance. Another reason why to look at stuff, you can see that. Now, char is another dot, same with banish. It's a little bit more useful to use because it does it over 15 seconds, and as well as one global cooldown does 18,000 damage, so it's a little bit more damage on char than to do an absorb shield. Again, our purpose is to heal, not damage, so this is only when you pretty much don't have to heal. You can throw in a little bit of damage as you start thinking about that. Um, AoE packs, especially when you don't have to worry about damage or healing that much, it's pretty much covered, or your heals are so strong that you have a couple seconds before you have to put another absorb shield on. You can lay down firewalls. Again, look at talents. There is talent. I forget where the talent is exactly. In Flame here, yeah. Flame Lance and Firewall, so the 2-second cast, and the Firewall cause additional 20% of their damage over 3 seconds, so it's a 3-second dodge after the initial application. As well, it allows you to have 2 additional firewalls active, so you can have up to 3 firewalls active at once, but reduces the damage of the firewalls by 20%. It also reduces the cast time of char by 100%. So char used to have a cast time, but now it's instant. Um, and as well, firewalls, you can place 3 down. So I'll just show it. 1 firewall. It also, how the firewall shows depends on how you're facing. It always is the width to you, or the length. So depending on how you turn is how it goes. So 1, 2, 3, 3. If I apply a 4th one, it gets rid of that first one. Apply another first one, gets rid of the oldest one. Depending on how adds are stacked up, you can just apply all 3 in one location, and it's your AoE attack ground target that stays active for 10 seconds. So 3 seconds to apply each one. That means your oldest one has 7 seconds before it falls off. As well, go into some healing stuff. We have Categorize, which is our single target cleanse. Removes 1 curse, disease, or poison. We have Categorizing Wave, which is our AoE one, which he cleanses 10 raid members. We also have Sterilize. Sterilize has a 20-second cooldown, but removes all curses, disease, and poisons on the target. So if there's multiple stacks or multiple dots on your target, Sterilize you can use once every 20 seconds. It gets rid of everything. The only things it doesn't remove, as you can see, is bleeds. Bleeds you just have to heal through. As well, we have Flame of Life. Flame of Life is a big cooldown. As I said, it shares a debuff with Paladin. You can use it every 1 minute 30 seconds. It restores health equal to 150% of the cleric's max health to 10 group or party members over 6 seconds. It also reduces damage taken by the allies by 20% and increases the damage that they do by 5%. So the damage reduction, it's a little bit of a wild growth, and it's a 6-second huge pot. Obviously, with my health at the moment, I have max health of currently 72,880. So 150% of that dealt over 6 seconds. Pretty damn good heal. As well, there's Flash of the Phoenix, which is a 5-minute cooldown. That is our battle res. Restores 50% health and mana, usable in combat. Of course, with the talent of Faith's Freedom, when casting a combat resurrection, the revived ally has 100% of their health returned and receive 30% less damage for 5 seconds. That effect ends, though, if they use a combat ability. So instead of 50% health, they can res up and, be instant one-shotted. 100% health, it's a little bit harder to just die right from resing. So very useful in that thing. We have Healing Flare. It's a small instant heal. Healing Breath is still better than it, but it's another thing that we can usually cast while on the move. One of our main healing abilities is called Latent Blaze. It's up every 45 seconds. It does have a 3-second cast time though. Very hard to cast something in raids for 3 seconds. So this is where the um, Sentinel Touch the Light really comes in handy, is Touch the Light, then Latent Blaze makes Latent Blaze instant cast. So we don't have to wait there for 3 seconds. Now, Latent Blaze, what it does though, is it goes onto a target and it stays on for 5 minutes. When that target drops below 30% health, it instantly pops Latent Blaze and heals them. The heal at the moment with my current gear, as you can see with the tooltip, 39,000 to 53,000, that is without a crit. I've seen this heal for over 120k health. Pretty damn good heal is what it is. I'll show you my macro for that after I go through the rest of these abilities. Now, we have quite a lot of absorption abilities. As we know from our eruption, any absorption ability that is used on the person of our eruption procs some damage. So we have Gathering Flames, which is a 1-minute cooldown, which shields 10 party members for a little bit of health. Really helps with raid damage when you know that it's coming, that it protects them for a little bit, so that way your raid healer has that extra second to get into their rotation and start healing and top them off. Really, really useful for that. We have Rite of the Forge. This is a 2-minute cooldown. Rite of the Forge procs every 3 seconds for 15 seconds, applying an absorb shield of, with my current gear, almost 26,000 HP. Lasts for 15 seconds. So it pretty much is a pulsing shield. Really helpful for when you know the tank is going to take a lot of damage and you might have to switch your target to shield up another party member or res a party member. This shield protects them from some damage and gives you a little bit of leeway to be able to switch target and get back to them. Or also when you know that they're going to take a lot of damage. Back with healing Crucia, Crucia's breath is a lot of times when I used Rite of the Forge because it is a pretty decent absorb. We also have Spiritual Conflagration. This is a channel, a 4-second channel cooldown of 1 minute, so you cannot move. It heals my current gear just over 44,000 health over 4 seconds. Pretty much every second it's a 10k heal. But the other thing is it also applies Spiritual Conflagration each second, which absorbs 16,000, well, just over 16,000 damage. So 10k health each second I'm healing, but each second as well, it's putting an absorb shield that heals just over 16,000. So it helps protect them as you top them off. Now as well, we have 2 different symbols. Symbols are very important to know how they work. You have 2 symbols, one symbol of the sun. This one, with my current gear, absorbs 32,000 damage. It lasts 30 seconds. The other symbol is symbol of the torch. This one's a little bit smaller. It absorbs currently just about 24,000 damage, lasts 30 seconds. So they both last 30 seconds, but one's smaller than the other. You can apply each symbol up to 3 times. To 3 different targets, I mean. You apply it to a 4th target. If there's currently a shield on your first target, it will disappear. So in a 5-man, you can shield everybody plus a pet. If somebody has like a ranger pet out or a druid pet out, you can shield that pet plus each party member. Yourself, the tank, each DPS, because you can apply up to 6 symbols. The problem with the symbol is when you apply it, I just applied one here, the target of the symbol gets this debuff called burnout, which they cannot receive symbols for 15 seconds. Well, you heal them, there's a chance to proc clear the coals, which gets rid of that debuff, which you then can do another shield on them. So it's very nice to know that, and that's why I have a K alert for my target to see if they have burnout on them. Because every time that my tank does not have burnout, I'm applying the Signal of the Sun to them with my biggest shield. So that way they take less and less damage. Now, other than that, we have 3 healing abilities that also absorb. We have our Ward of Fire, Ward of Flame, and Ward of Scorching. Now, with talking about the masteries, I did kind of talk about Ward of Scorching. Ward of Scorching is a 2-second cast time, heals very little compared to the other ones, really. The other ones, like Ward of Fire, is our smaller one. It healing just about 20k health, but absorbing about 15k health, last 10 seconds. But the thing is, it gives us a stacking buff, reducing our cast time of our Ward of Fire by 0.5 seconds and mana cost by that for 6 stacks. That's what this K alert is saying 6 here. So I have 6. Ward of Flame otherwise is a 3-second channel. If I have no stacks, sorry. Ward of Fire is the 3-second cast time one. Ward of Flame is the channeled one. So if I don't have those 6 stacks, my Ward of Fire is a 3-second cast. If I have Ward of Flame, that's my channel, and it applies 3 stacks for a full channel. 2 full channels is 6 stacks, making Ward of Fire instant cast, and uses up all 6 stacks. So Ward of Flame is just over 17,000 health over the 3-second channel, but absorbs shield of 6/6 per stack. So for the full channel, you're healing just over, or giving absorb shield of just over 18,000. So channel that twice makes Ward of Fire instant cast, which heals 20,000 health and does an absorb shield of 15k. Ward of Scorching, 2-second cast is 25k health and a 12k absorb shield. It's a little bit more health, but less absorb shield than these ones. As I said, Ward of Flame though is a 1 second more. 2 seconds of that channel is just about just over 12k of a shield. So the shield amount is about the same with a Ward of Flame 2-second channel or a Ward of Scorching 2-second cast. Ward of Scorching giving more health, but you have to stand still for those full 2 seconds to get a Ward of Scorching off, where you can channel for a second and move, and you would have healed and put a little bit of absorb shield on as you did that. So Ward of Flame is more useful if you have to stop, channel for a second, and interrupt yourself. You at least get something out, where Ward of Scorching you have to stop for a whole 2 seconds. Because of this, you pretty much, and because of how Ward of Flame works with Ward of Fire, is pretty much the combination is Ward of Flame, Ward of Fire. So with that one mastery, Faith's Reward, you can get an instant cast Ward of Scorching. So it does provide a lot better utility with movement type of fights. Otherwise, if you don't have to move so much, and you don't need to worry about burst heals as well, I would suggest using the 2 Purifier Sign Mastery and just going with a simple rotation. So that's your 3 main healing abilities, are the 3 wards, other than the 2 symbols. You have 2 combat buffs called Fiery Will, which increases damage and healing done with fire spells by 25% and exertion granted by fire spells by 50% for 15 seconds. It's a 1-minute cooldown, so but lasts for 15 seconds. It's pretty much, you don't have use of it every 45 seconds. You also have flashover, which is a 45-second cooldown, which forces the next healing or absorb spell to critically hit, and it lasts 30 seconds. Um, so the next heal or absorb spell you use will critically hit. And the funny thing is with this is Latent Blaze counts as a healing spell. You can use it up, but Latent Blaze only procs if the person goes below 30% health. But because you applied it with making it be force a crit hit, is you can pretty much make sure every time you put on Latent Blaze that if it goes off, it will critically hit heal. And that's with Flashover. So I have Flashover on my bar, but I also have it macroed into my Latent Blaze. Now as well, last but not least is buffs. Um, Caregiver's Blessing is our single target healing and absorb spells. Apply Caregiver's Blessing for 10 seconds, which is a small absorb. Lasts for 1 hour. We have Eruption, which is how we proc some damage, is it goes on our main target that we're healing, and anytime we put an absorb shield on them, it will proc some damage to their target. Be very careful if you're about to pull a boss that you don't heal the tank if you guys are in range of the boss, because you can actually pull the boss by proccing the damage if the tank has that boss targeted and you heal them. Very, very careful with that. We have Sign of Anticipation, which causes our heals on the target to apply the sign, which increases dodge and block by 3%. Dodge and block aren't really that great of mitigation. Um, Dodge is very low on most tanks, and block has a hard cap of 60%. So you can only the tank can only block 60 percent of the attacks, meaning 40% of attacks will make it through and deal full damage. Also, blocking only reduces, um, depending on the tank, normally 40 percent of the damage. So 60% of the time, if they're hard capped to negate 40% damage, isn't that great? Then instead, Sign of Faith, which applies Sign of Faith, reduces all damage taken by 7%. That is a constant reduction of damage, and they will take less and less damage consistently with Sign of Faith. If you're only using one sign, use Sign of Faith. Sign of Daring is when we heal the person, their armor and resist can increase by 3%. Um, it is better than Sign of Anticipation because it's a constant mitigation yet again. Armor increase means that they take less physical damage. Resistance increase means they take less non-physical damage. It reduces it consistently, where if they don't dodge, they take flow damage, where if they block, they take 60% of the damage still. Um, so that's where Sign of Daring is better than Sign of Anticipation, how those two interact. Of course, feel free to play around. I do always suggest, though, with one sign, you use Sign of Faith. Second sign, try and play around with it if you can master it. Sign of Wrath is the other one, pretty much used in PvP. What it is your heal applies Sign of Wrath to them for 15 seconds. When that person that gets hit by either another player or an enemy, it procs a little bit of damage to the attacker. Right now with my gear, it does 982 fire damage to the attacker. It's not even 1k damage. So they had 10k health. That's 10 seconds of them beating on that target with no heals that they'd end up killing themselves. So it's not really worth it. Your job as a healer is to, um, top them up, keep them full health, and with Purifier, reduce the damage they take. Wisdom of the Ages is a wisdom increase buff. It does not stack with some other raid buffs from like Archon and stuff, so 5 mans though, very useful to have on your bar. So that's all the abilities. As I said, for buffs, you want to take out your buffs, of course, with my masteries, the ones I suggested, instead of the diversify, instead of the one to make Ward Scorching instant cast. Sign of Faith, Sign of Daring, Caregiver's Blessing, at the moment with the Inquisitor, the Armor of Devotion, Divine Favor, Heroic Resolve for 5 mans, Wisdom of the Aegis for 5 mans, and then Eruption. Um, so on my bar, my click bar, as I said in my tanking one, is my control bar because I haven't gotten used to using control as a modifier yet. So I have my main cooldowns on my click bar. So Rite of the Forge, Spiritual Conflagration. I do have flashover here as well because there is times you don't need to apply Latent Blaze, so you can use flashover to crit heal your Symbol of the Sun. I suggest that most because Symbol of the Sun is a 32k absorb shield. It is your biggest absorb shield other than using flashover for one of your other cooldowns. So just in your normal healing rotation, you can use flashover to crit. Symbol of the Sun is the best one. As you can see, I pretty much critted and almost shielded myself for my full amount of health. Um, so that's pretty good, almost having a 72k absorb shield on myself. Yeah, see again, pretty much it looks like I'm 90% shielded, maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe 95% that because I just reduced my max health by that, which also lowered the shield. Um, so it looked like maybe 95% of my health was shielded up. So pretty powerful to use flashover with the Symbol of the Sun. As well, Fiery Will, 1 minute cooldown. As I said, these two things I do have in my Latent Blaze macro, but because Latent Blaze lasts for 5 minutes, unless you're constantly putting it on other party members, um, you can use these in your normal rotation or as cooldowns outside of using Latent Blaze. As well, I have Flame of Life on my cool bar that I click, the Gathering of Flames, Firewall, and my Soul Branch for mana regen, as well as the Char, Vanish, and Flame Lance, which are all damaging abilities. I do have 2 firewalls kind of on my bar. Main reason that is Firewall, as you can see, you can place it. It is ground target AoE. So you can place it wherever you
No
want. You can
souls
turn around,
aligned
place
to
it sideways
devour
instead.
ascended.
Or if you have a target, you can make a macro that places it at your target. So right now I'm placing it on myself. As you can see, all 3 went right in the same spot. Or if I turn, all in the pretty much the same spot, the center edge of it is being put right on me. Um, so I have firewalling 2 different things just because there might be sometimes I might want to place the firewall a little bit differently than if I put it on the target. I have as well Latent Blaze macro, my cleanse macro, AoE cleanse, and the sterilize. Always for, as well, breakthrough should be on all your bars for specs. They should never be in macros because there are abilities that break free will drop, and they drop too early and can wait raids, like in Matriarch if people remember. As well, I have my Battle Res macro. Then on my bar, I have Ward of Flame as 1, Ward of Fire as 2, I have my Healing Breath macro as 3, I have Symbol of the Sun as 4, and Symbol of the Torch as 5. Reason for this being is, again, 12 buttons on the side of my mouse, 1 and 2 and 1 and 4 are right beside each other. 1 is just below 2, so I just move my thumb up and down to hit those. up to 3 if needed for um, topping somebody off or something. Emergency heal on a party member. People also use mouse over macros if that is what you're comfortable using and you have a healing add-on that makes it a lot easier. Feel free to do that. I normally don't heal as often. I believe, a strong healer though, but I just haven't gotten into using those healing add-ons, like some people who main spec heal. Um, and then again, symbol of the sign, our big symbol is 4, which is just I move my thumb towards my palm a little from 1 to 4, very easy, and 5 is very close to where my thumb rests at 1, making all of these easy 1 to 6 buttons very easy to reach, and just goes from there. Now, to show you my macros, healing macros, cleanse one is whatever spec you have, your cleanse, you should make a cleanse macro. You can do it like this, which as you can see in the thing is it just shows your cleanse, press macro failures. In case you were casting something and need a cleanse right off the bat, you want to add a stop casting macro to it. So that way it stops the cast, stops the channel, and you start cleansing right off again. Then the macro can just be cast at group 01, group 02, 3, 4, 5, and whatever the spell name is. For Purifier, it is Categorize. So for group 01 all the way to group 020, it's casting Categorize. What this does is
Beholds
cleanses don't go
a
off of people unless they have something
governative
to be
time.
cleansed. So if the group 1 person has something to be cleansed all the way to group 20 in a raid, it will start cleansing, and every time you hit this cleanse macro, it will cleanse something off of target 1 first, and always. Then move on to 2, then 3, then 4. So without you needing to target anyone, you can just spam this macro, and it will find a person to cleanse and start cleansing them. Doesn't work, of course, when everybody has something to cleanse, because, or if there's a lot of stacks on one person. So I do sometimes suggest, depending on if how you know the fight and your things, you might want to just have as well your normal cleanse on your bar somewhere, so that way you can swap around to it, or um, so that way you can adjust accordingly. Because obviously, if in fights there's multiple things to cleanse, but there's one important thing to cleanse that needs to be cleansed ASAP, this macro will start cleansing group 1, group party member first, and not get to the person that you need to cleanse. Think of it as in EE on Regulos. Regulos put something on a few people that needs to be cleansed ASAP or they die, and if there was other cleanses that you needed to do, you wouldn't get to that one right off the bat. So you need to adjust which macro or how you cleanse accordingly. Um, but cleanse macro always works, especially for quite a lot of stuff. Salvarola, on that fight, he put something on you that slowed you down and did some damage. Um, and if it wasn't cleansed, pretty much the soul incineration would come over and run you over, and that person would die. And that one just was a hectic fight. He applied it on one person. There was nothing else to cleanse. This macro would cleanse that person in a jiffy. You don't have to target and find out who had that on. Battle res macro, of course, is just saying out a little call out that I've used who I'm resing, little call out, a little thing that I like to say, rise by zombie minion, and says the cooldown length, and cast the thing. So this lets raid know that I casted my res at person, and it's resing them. My healing breath macro, as I said, so show healing breaths, press macro feeler, cast healing breath, and cast healing flare. Healing breath and healing flare are the two instant heals. one from Sentinel, one from Purifier. Sentinel heals for 16 to 18,000, but it has an 8-second cooldown. So if it's off cooldown, what this does is it uses Healing Flare. Healing Flare heals for 10,000 to 11,000 health. So it's a little bit weaker, but of course they're both instants. Because one has the 8-second cooldown, you can rack up them together like that, and if Healing Breath is off, you're using Healing Flare. It's better to get some heals, even if it's weaker, than no heals at all if you need to move. So this macro is very helpful for on the move. As well, Firewall macro, cast at GTAE Firewall. We'll just place the firewalls down at whoever you have targeted, like I've been showing. And that's it for my Purifier macros, actually. It's just really those 4. So, I'll queue up as a dungeon at the moment, just as heals, and I'll show you kind of how I heal. Probably won't show the whole dungeon, so you don't have to watch everything, but it will give you an idea. Obviously, tanks and healers are the much needed things, so hopefully the queue won't take too long, but we should have a pop here pretty soon, hopefully. There we go. Go and click ready. Go make sure all my buffs are applied. I know it's been a while since I've applied my buffs, so... And someone refused, so we'll go and wait again. Now, as I said, there is a few buffs that you need to wait for when you're in your party. The Divine Favor one, you can put Divine Providence on yourself, of course, which enables Divine Favor. Divine Favor, you need to apply it on party members, so obviously I'll apply it when I'm in the dungeon. Same with Heroic Resolve, Wisdom of the Aegis, because those are group buffs. And then Eruption on my tank. Hopefully we'll be having another pop here quickly. Hopefully this time everybody will accept. And there we go. So we're getting ported into a dungeon. Empyrean Core, the fun one. Really good to show how to heal on the trash to the Mad Doctor. So as soon as we're in, Eruption on the tank. I use the 2 group buffs, applying Wisdom and some Endurance. What I do is I apply Divine Favor for in dungeons on the 3 DPS, not the tank. Reason for this is I believe my heals are strong enough, and so on the 3 DPSs, every time I heal the tank, they get a little bit of heal as well, which means I don't really have to spot heal them as much. As well, top off the tank, and then as well, I use my Latent Blaze macro, which puts up the Fiery Will, the flashover, uses Touch the Light, and then applies the Latent Blaze. So you have to click it 4 times to apply the instant cast. Though 3 of those have no global cooldown, so you can just spam it and apply it all in 1 second. If you're slow at clicking it, of course it takes longer to apply, but you can apply it in 1 global cooldown. So now we're just waiting on the tank to start pulling. And there he's off. So normally before he pulls, we're going to apply a symbol of the sun. As you saw, symbol of sun burnout, K alert applied. Every once in a while it'll fade on. All I pretty much do is, I don't have to move, he's not taking a lot of damage, is I just keep on channeling Ward of Flame. This allows me to have the 6 stacks to instant cast my Ward of Fire. I pretty much save Ward of Fire for if I have to move, or if he just took some burst damage. And every time burnout's off, just keep applying a symbol. I just watched the group frames also. I see Ice is taking a little bit of health. I just click him in the raid frame and then use the healing breath on him and then back to healing the tank. Now at the moment I'm going to use the cooldown so this way I can get a little bit of damage in. Tank is... Oops, the tank is there. Make the tank also... Okay. Yeah, there's a little bit of a thing there. He took a little bit of damage with me doing that. I had 2 full packs there. So I had him shielded enough that he didn't die, and realized my Latent Blaze was off, so I refreshed him Latent Blaze onto him. Which, as you saw, pretty much healed him up to full health. Now, notice that my Kaelect is showing Latent Blaze. I will post my Kaelect as well. As you can see with Purifier, just have 3. There's stacks for my instant cast Ward of Fire, the one for my symbol to see if I can re-shield them, and my target's Latent Blaze, countdown for that. So if I switch, obviously, shield it up, he gets a 1, but these people do not have Latent Blaze on them. Latent Blaze is also every 45 seconds, so I can apply it even to myself. It lasts for 5 minutes, so if I drop below 30% health and forget to heal myself, it automatically heals me. Let me just go with that. If you're not familiar, this golden beam of light is the shoe trinket block, which heals up to 3 party members. This boss pulls a person in and stuns them and channels damage on them, so you have to be ready to either shield the person up or to top them off. But because of also my Divine Favor on the 3 DPS, the main thing I have to worry about is healing myself and healing the tank. So it did not interrupt the bandages died, so this is battle res. Of course, with this fight we have to hide. Just because some people take some damage here, I'm just shielding them up, topping them off. Not much tank damage here, so I'll shield up the party members. So that way, and I have to heal them as often. Remember, the symbols last for 30 seconds until the damage is fully absorbed. So again, as I said, is I just pretty much go channeling. Not much damage at the moment, so use the damage. Watch out for his I'll just keep on going. Just heal myself up because I'm gonna get damage. Really wish people were smarter and knew how to hide from damage, because they really don't know how to hide. Obviously you can see why I don't heal as often, because people are stupid. That's pretty much how I play it, is just watch for my symbol to reapply, apply it as often as possible, and I mainly just channel the one on. As you saw with that fight, I didn't use any mana stuff, and pretty much went down to I think 60% health, or 6% mana. Instead of doing some damage at times, I would have increased my mana if I dropped below 50%. But keeping an eye on your mana is important. Do not want to drop below 50% and not realize that, because you could get down to 0% and need to toss a big heal and be out of mana. Another reason why I have this add-on here, the Archives, which show my mana beside the So that way I do not have to look up to the top of my screen and see what my health and it's at. It's right with my character, right in the middle of my screen. Obviously, different add-ons can help you or hinder you. I always say do not rely on add-ons sometimes. K-alerts is nice, it's really handy, but sometimes with deaths, they like to bug out and not show. So, gotta watch for that. In here at the moment, which is long, so let's back to the frame. It's got 15 seconds left in this. Just don't watch it. Kind of want to let it up. I want to try and get it to proc, but not procking. Now it's falling off, so I'll have to just reapply. Sometimes I like it being used up and pull it off, so I'll stop healing so that happens. This one will go big, until he gets all the aggro, going really watch him right now. He has all the aggro, so I don't have to heal anybody or give him an instant shield. I just have to make sure he does not die. So I just used the instant cast for fire, used up my 6 stacks. As it did take a little bit of damage, so I figured I'd just use that to help him off with a good shield. I didn't pick up this one enemy itself, so I had to watch my own health shooting myself up. Finally picked it up, so good thing for that. If there's more adds on me, we probably could have wiped there because I probably couldn't have kept him alive and shielded myself enough to keep alive there. So we'll go from that. This boss is interesting to see how the Divine Favor works because the girl, the number 1, will randomly damage people. So if I just keep on healing the boss, she does not do enough damage where my Divine Favor on the 3 DPS should easily keep them all topped off. Be careful with zoning and if people port out die and release. Really watch out because if they go to a different instance than you or teleport, they will lose your Divine Favor and you'll have to rebuff them. So watch out on that. So here, she's doing this big huge thing. As you can see, my Divine Favor is pretty much keeping them all topped off, and it's just me being lower in health. So I just kept on healing tank, showed up, and now everybody's low because that guy failed a couple of things. So I used the Flame of Life. We all got a debuff, we're all topped off. They're all 6 seconds, we're getting 50% of my health. Latent Blaze just procced for 105k health, 3%, so I just reapplied it, and go from there. Now for the fun trash. I forget what group frames look like, but because I have it set to always use raid frames as party frames, so that's what this is. They changed it to raid. My raid 1 group is a little bit more up and to the left, but this guy does not have the Divine Favor on him, so I just buffed it on him. Bandera has it on him, and Death have it on. So there we go. So now that guy should be getting the heals nicely. I shouldn't have to watch him as much as I have been. With this one, kind of tried the max range. Remember your healing range as well. This is 35 meters from my wards and things. If I was a Chloro, I'd have to be a little bit closer. Remember, it's the distance to the tank, not the distance to the ads. Because the tank turns the ads around, the ads are between me and him. As you can see with this, I've just been using the Ward of Flame. Healing them up if I really need to, like a single on. Pretty easy healing as a purifier. As I said, like there's intricacies to it, knowing the fights. That's the other reason why I've gotten used to just always channeling or flame is it allows me to keep the 6 stacks for my instant cast or to fire, which allows me to move and heal in case he moves away. Like now it's out of range, so if I need to heal as I'm moving closer, I could have, since I got in range, but still moving, I could use my instant cast or to fire there, like I just did. Pretty much it's knowing the encounter and knowing how you need to heal it. Once your heals are strong enough, it's so easy and so mindless that like all I need to do even on this hard-hitting trash is channel Ward of Flame, and I'm good for the most part. Um, with the squishier tank, I would have needed to use a little bit more stuff, but I probably could afford to use some do some DPS skill as well. Because also I'm focusing on explaining things to you guys, using the time that I could have used DPS to instead think over what I'm doing and convey it to you guys. So there's Nicole's proc, so I can reapply the symbol. Reapply the symbol at a couple of seconds leeway, where I can look down and get some fireballs. And go right back to him. My Ward of Flame now is just a little bit weaker than the damage that he took. I could have used the instant cast Ward of Fire there, but instead I just used the symbol of the sun, because again, it's so strong that they're having trouble damaging him through it. So there he took a little bit worse damage, so I used the instant cast. He slows down a little, still had burnout on him, so I used healing breath, and then was started onto the channel. So it's really just getting familiar with how the things work. Having some tools at your disposal to help manage some stuff, like what stacks you're at for that instant fire. There is times that I've used like 4 stacks to cast the Ward of Fire. It makes it, I think, a 1 second instead. So it's just knowing when you have to use things and how to use them. Obviously, more practice and more comfortable you are with it, and the fight, the easier time you will have. So just be mindful, keep an eye out, know how you like to play and how to change how I play to how you play. So right there, they really hit him hard, like, didn't even really see it. So my Razor Blaze procced, and he was healed up again, and then my heals were keeping him up. He just had a really good spike there between my heals where he took massive damage. So Latent Blaze can save your tank really, really nicely. Obviously, if it's a lot of spike damage where they go 100% health, 25% health, 90% health, 10% health is, yeah, you're going to have some trouble there. I remember progression on Caliban, that kind of happened, or pretty much your Latent Blaze would proc, save the tank, and then the next hit the tank would be dead because of so much damage coming in. This fight is fun, is begin with, like, the tank will get aggro. I shield myself up with a big shield, I shield the tank up with a big shield. It's not too much damage at the moment. So I just shield up all party members because with this fight is everyone has aggro all the time pretty much because the ads run at the elixir people. So when the tank has the ads, I'll just channel on him since right now they're not. I see quite a lot of people have red around the things. They're on me now, so I go over to the tanks, take a little bit of damage and pick stuff up, so I want to top him off. And pretty much just Providence at the moment is keeping some people up with the damage they are, so I'm just really watching myself and the tank at the moment. also keeping an eye out to where the ads are, who they're running after. If I see all three running after one person, I'm going to try and shield them up because they're going to take a little bit more damage than everybody else more than my divine favor can heal them. And then I'm just going to move myself around so that way I'm close enough to heal everybody, but also far enough away that I can easily run from any ads that spawn or if the ads get off the tank. And because of this fight is what it is, I just mainly, as I said, watch my own health, watch the tank's health, and go from there. As you can see, that guy, see, he took a lot of damage, he wasn't positioned right. Okay, Raging Blaze was used on the tank, so applying that back onto him. But I also took a bit of damage, so healing myself. There's, if people don't get out of these purple circles, there is things that you can use so they're not do it anymore. So just watch for that to cleanse people. But of course, if they're not taking any damage from ads, you can easily just ignore that and let them just stand there. These ads hit hard, so once in a while, if you're not paying attention, the blaze is being used up. Now, I see my mana's a little bit lower too, so in between some heals, I'm going to try and regain some mana. Finally, the DPS and the teams work together
We'll take care
with
of
the
my
ad,
beautiful
break the shield and kill the
creation.
boss. This fight is a little bit more hectic for heals, so gotta be really on your feet for that one. Movement and all that is very, very high in that one. You have to move a lot sometimes, so that's another reason why I keep the 6 stacks for and try and heal with anything but my instant Ward of Fire, because that's another instant to use while on the move, because it is better than healing Flare and even healing Breath. Of course, if I'm constantly moving, I can't just use Ward of Fire, because I need 6 stacks for it to be instant. So it is my first instant normally, and then if needed, healing Breath, healing Flare. Tank DC'd here, so waiting for a little bit at the moment. Party member just said he had to do a fast reboot, I guess it's from the same guild or something, so that's good. And here he is. Now with this fight, like as I said, knowing the fight, and even knowing your fellow group mates can be a really big blessing for healing. Since I don't know any of these people, I'm going to assume that they're going to make it harder to heal, meaning that they might be stupid and take damage from the radiation. That means I have to be ready for whoever this boss is going to randomly chase to shield that person up, so that way they don't take damage. Tank did not run out of the way while casting radiation, so he took some damage there before he started running away. Again, assuming that they're stupid. Sometimes you might want to focus the boss to see what they're doing, especially if you have focused cast bars. Tank got too far, or I ended up aggro. Sometimes this boss likes to aggro drop. As well, make sure everybody's topped off. So he cast radiation, got prepared for it, he's on ice. And Death took some damage from that as well. As well, you want to make sure everybody's topped off, as I said, before he does the throwback. If he does the throwback and they're not topped off, they pretty much will die 50-50. Knockback sometimes does up to 80%, and in real life I've seen. So you gotta be really careful. Frenzy now, so I know that you need to be a little bit closer, or else he's going to do the charge stun thing. And as well, if people stand in the red, they take damage constantly. At the moment, these people aren't stacking up, so he's constantly charging, constantly charging. So, making my life difficult as a healer. If you know your group mates, this fight becomes a lot easier to do because you know how your group mates will act, you know what behavior to expect most of the time, which makes it easier to predict how the damage will be. Again, as I said, it's a really huge blessing to know the other players you're playing with. Another reason why most people hate sometimes doing full pugs. You're always surprised at the behavior of people. So I think that's pretty much it that I can show you, so I'm going to end this broadcast here. Hope that's enough for you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and you guys have fun.